And one of those who voted to impeach the president was the number 3 House Republican Liz Cheney. She's facing calls from some members of her own party to resign from leadership positions for standing against the president. And this, of course, follows her statement saying that where she made the case for why she would vote in favor of impeaching the president. She blamed President Trump for the violent mob attack on Capitol Hill in no uncertain terms. So here now to talk with us more about Liz Cheney and what she represents for the Republican Party is Bloomberg opinion columnist Robert George. Robert, there was a lot of mentions of Liz Cheney's name on the floor of the House today, most notably by Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House, who named her several times before he wrapped up his comments. Is that going to hurt her survivability in the House and in the Republican Party?
I mean, it could conceively. Already there's some comments going around that some of the members want to have a revote, as it were, on the leadership, and saying that she needs to be challenged. The thing is, though, Liz Cheney has been around for a while. She obviously comes from a political family, and she thinks that she voted and made a statement that came out of conscience and principle. And so I mean, I think it'll be interesting. There will be some people who want to move against her, but my gut feeling is that she'd be able to withstand that kind of a challenge.
And I'm glad you bring up the whole idea of voting your conscience, because Kevin McCarthy, notably the House Minority Leader, was not whipping votes. He freed his conference to vote however they wanted. He did warn members not to verbally attack colleagues who vote for impeachment because it could endanger their lives. How do you see this playing out? I mean, will members abide by that?
Well, that's actually one of the most interesting things about this entire development, because McCarthy is the Republican leader. He's the senior Republican in the House. Liz Cheney is his junior, but McCarthy was sort of going all over the map with how he wanted to approach this. First of all, he said, I'm absolutely opposed to impeachment. But then he said, well, censure would be more appropriate. And then he said, well, maybe I should get the president to resign. Whereas Cheney came out very, very forcefully and said, no, the president has clearly committed impeachable actions, and he needs to go. That may very well have influenced, had an influence on McCarthy, because the statement that he gave on the floor today, while he said that he would have still recommended censure, it was very, very critical of the president, and said that he bore some responsibility for the violence last week. So I think he's going to try and keep the tensions between the conference, try and alleviate those tensions as much as he can. But it's going to be very tough. And unfortunately, this is the position that President Trump has put the Republican conference in.
Yeah. Well, speaking of President Trump, and we have about a minute here as we wrap things up with you, Robert, you've written a lot about the soul, the future of the Republican Party. This is now the party of Trump, for better or for worse. Is the party better off with President Trump, or does he hurt the party?
President Trump helps the party when he's on the ballot. The party did well with him in 2016 and 2020, at least in November of 2020. When he's not on the ballot, he is a main burden. He's a main anchor. That's one of the reasons why Mitch McConnell is talking about being undecided as to whether he will vote to convict. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward whether the president is still able to hold his power over the elected members.
Robert George, really appreciate your joining us and giving us some context here. Robert George is a Bloomberg opinion columnist. He was previously a member of the editorial boards of the New York Daily News and New York Post.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.